Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of LA Word Devotional. Yes, I'm wearing a hat, and a lot of people are like, oh, hey, he's wearing a hat, and they make comments, yada, yada, yada. Look, man, I just had a bad hair day. A lot of people say, yeah, your hair is short, but anyways, I just wanted to wear my hat. I haven't worn this hat for a long time, but man, I want to start off by saying I'm thrilled, I'm excited to share with you all what God has showed me through an illustration. Get this, through an illustration through a Nintendo Wii game that I was watching today. My oldest son Noah was playing a Nintendo Wii game called Skylanders. It's like these little critters that you put on this base, and it shows up on, like, these little things, you put them on a base and it shows up on the game, right? It's called Skylanders. Now, in this particular game, I'm gonna hold this kind of like my visual. In this game, there's this little character right here, and he had to go around in this board, and he had to find the pieces to this map. Okay, following along here. Now, once he found the pieces to this map, once it was together, it showed him the way. It showed him a path from point A to point B through a landmill, or through a landmine. Okay. So the map's in heaven, and then once he got the map, it showed him the directions to how to make it through the landfill, right? Not landfill, but the landmine, right? You got it, had like these little pointed dots to show him arrows to make it from where he was at to safety without getting blown up by the landmines. You follow me so far? Now, as Noah was walking along through his dotted path of where it was showing from point A to point B to safety, there's landmines all around him, okay? Now, what was amazing that I want to share to you is that while Noah's character was going along, Noah wanted to get food for his strength, right? Or there would be treasures to gain points, and to gain points and get certain things throughout the game. But every time Noah went off the path that he was intended to do, Noah faced the consequences, and his man right here, his character in the game, got hurt. Because every time that he went for that piece of food, every time he went for that treasure to extra points or whatever else, he got zapped, he got blown, he got hurt. He faced the consequences. His strength or his level in the game went down. And so I point out to Noah, like, hey, Noah, just stay on the path. Don't be enticed. Don't be tempted to go with everything else that's around you. Just go from point A to point B. Just follow along that dotted path, and you're in safety. And it occurred to me that in my devotion time this morning, Noah and I were talking about the exact same implication in our lives. So, if you will, turn with me to the Old Testament in Deuteronomy. We're going to be looking at Deuteronomy chapter verses 13 through 16. The main emphasis is on verse 16, but I want to back up just to kind of go over the content of what we're going to be talking about to set it up, okay? So, Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 13, it says this. So if you, Moses is speaking to the Israelites, they just got out of Egypt, they're about to take the promised land, okay? He's speaking on behalf of God. He says, so if you faithfully obey the commands I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and oil. Verse 15, I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Now, notice that the Nile River in Egypt was already there. Where they're going to, it's dry. So they have to be they have to be dependent upon God. And when they obey and serve him faithfully, what you notice is there's a promise, but there's a blessing that comes with that when they're obedient unto God. Now, this morning, when Noah and I were looking at this passage, I love it because verse 16 says this. Moses continues on. After he's talking about the blessing, he continues on. He says this. In verse 16, he says, be careful. Be careful. Or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Let me read that again. Verse 16. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. And some of you guys are like, well, how did you get the illustration out of, Skylanders, your son's game that you're playing? Okay, God has already given us a map per se. of what life should be like, guideline, to live in the freedom, to live in the confines, because there's freedom in Jesus Christ. And in that path that he offers us life, that promise, that blessing comes through the Word of God, that comes through his Son, Jesus Christ, saying, look, I've already offered you this. If you obey and you serve me and you favor me, this is what is guaranteed. This is what's promised. But notice so many times in life, we're enticed, we're tempted by everything else that's what around us. Just like Noah's game, Noah was enticed to take his character to go after, like, you know, these possessions for more points or food. That's the same thing in our own lives. Where we place idols above God. Or we look around us and sometimes we're like, man, yeah, I want to go after that. And we kind of veer off of what God has intended for us to be. Intended for God, for what he wants us to be and where he wants us to go in life. And I don't know what those things may be. Only you know what entices you. You only know what tempts you. But what I know what happens is when we go for those things, and there's consequences. And there's destruction that happens and it plagues our own hearts. When we go after the things that God doesn't intend for us to go for. So here's a couple of questions. Here's my first question. What tempts or entices you away from God? What entices or tempts you away from God? You know, another way it might put this, it might be a different question to ask, would be this. What distracts you from your relationship with God? What are those idols? An idol is anything that you put an importance, or you place an importance above God. I mean, it could be your husband, it could be your wife, it could be your boyfriend, it could be your girlfriend, it could be your job, it could be your car, it could be your house, it could be your relationship, it could be your material possessions, it could be the things that you're going, anything that takes the throne of God, and you take him off of his throne, off your heart, and you place whatever this is, and you put more importance, more time, more effort into that, you've made it an idol. You may not physically bow down and say, oh yes, I worship you, TV. Just an example. But whatever you make an importance of your life above God, you've made it an idol. And you're already kind of getting bombarded by the landmines in life, and you're facing those consequences. But to truly be obedient and to serve God, God says, look, when you're obedient and you serve me, I'll bless you. I'll bless you. I will give unto you because I love and I care for you. Follow this path. Follow these instructions. And he gives us those instructions by his very word. So, tonight, today, wherever you may be watching, may you be encouraged. You know, here's my encouragement for you. Is by the words of Moses, be careful. Be careful. Be on the lookout. Because the world, our culture, and Satan himself are going to tempt you, going to entice you, and say, hey, look at this. Look at this. Don't focus on Jesus Christ. Don't focus on your relationship with God and following you. But I want you to focus over here. I want you to focus over this way. To get your attention away from your relationship with God. So, today, tonight, wherever you may be, maybe you think about those things. What are those things that distract you from your relationship with God? And maybe be reminded, but of just a little character from Skylanders, from Nintendo Wii, of God's practical truth in our lives. I love how God gives us life application of illustrations that we can pertain to our life. My name is Adam. This is LA Word Devotional. Thanks for spending my time with me.